the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.
Hello, Richard.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Or afternoon, I should say.
Yeah, well, morning by you, afternoon by me. Fair enough.
Okay.
First of all, absolute pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
I've been watching Home Improvement. I grew up watching Home Improvement. Easily one of the best, greatest sitcoms in my eyes. And your character, Al Borland, one of the most iconic characters to ever grace television. I'm a huge fan, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to do this, number one.
All right.
Before we get started, just give me 1 second because I'm not fully ready yet.
Okay.
All right. And now I'm ready.
Oh, jeez. Wow. I should have worn plaid.
Oh, I was so twisted up because I had it in my arms. Now I'm more comfortable. Wanted to get the flannel. All right. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington.
Grew up in Seattle, Washington. And what made you want to be an actor?
That's the W.
Yes. I like your background, by the way. I love the room.
Oh, thank you. This is my little corner. This is my Richard Karn corner.
No,
I grew up in Seattle and actually had a chance to go to theater school in New York, NYU, but my parents couldn't afford it. It was like $5,000 a year. And right. They were looking at me like I was from the moon. And I ended up going to the University of Washington for $78 a quarter. And it turned out to be a much, much better fit.
Wow. $78 a quarter, man. I wish, I bet a lot of people wish it was still like that.
Yeah.
So what made you want to become an actor? And did you take courses?
I started doing theater in junior high school.
Okay.
I kind of not thinking about it. And then in high school, I did some plays and some musicals. I loved high school. I got to play football. I got to run track. I got to do theater. I did all sorts of stuff. Had a great time. And then when I went to the University of Washington, I did 2 years undergrad, and then I auditioned for the graduate program, the BFA, MFA program, and got accepted into that. And 3 years of school there, and then moved to New York.
Okay, now you moved to New York. Now, did you have your first acting gig in New York?
Well, not my first. I mean, my first acting gig was kind of like in high school. I did summer stock at the Bathhouse Theater. So I actually got paid. But my first gig in New York was a Michelob beer commercial.
Yes. Now that was 1979, if I'm not mistaken.
79, and it showed the 1980 Super Bowl.
Well, okay, wow. So yeah, during the Super Bowl, and then you did it again many years later during Home Improvement time for Michelob, right? 1995, right?
Not Michelob. I think it was like Miller Lite or something.
Oh, it's a different beer. Okay.
It was a different beer, and I was Al, and I built the outdoor.
Yes.
What was it called? Refreshment Center or something like that. There was an outdoor beer tap.
I actually found both of the clips.
Oh no, really?
If you want to check them out, you want to go down memory lane? All right, let me share the screen here. Okay, here we go.
Weekends were made for Michelob.
It's for real.
Well, that calls for something special.
Hey, Chico! Michelob all around.
Make your own weekend a little more special with a smooth and mellow taste of Michelob.
Michelob? What's the occasion? I met the woman.
Again, weekends were made for Michelob.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's fantastic.
Oh my God.
I wish they still made commercials like that.
You had this wonderful song. You had the voice of Charlie.
Yes.
I mean, Charlie's angel voice doing the voiceover. It was brilliant.
It was brilliant. When's the last time you saw that?
A long time ago. I can still remember, that first part where we're walking down the street, real quick cut.
Yep.
We were outside on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, outside of kind of close to Dorian's Red Hand, where we did the inside shot. And Dorian's Red Hand was the infamous beer or pub where the Preppy murder happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So that was all going on then. But I remember that first line, this time it's for, oh God, I still can't remember. Was it this time it's for sure? Or this time it's for real?
This time is for real, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I kept saying this time is for sure, and they come up to me, go, the line is this time it's for real. And I go, oh, I'm sorry, and like 4 or 5 takes, I was like petrified how difficult that had to have been.
Yeah. It's got to be hard to memorize lines in general.
No, it's not. I kept thinking, this time is for sure, this time is for real. Didn't make a big difference to me, but they wanted it very specific, and finally we got that line.
Right. It was great. And then, like I said, 1995 now, we got Miller, I believe. Here we go.
Well, this is it.
Ooh, what a dump.
Don't worry. We know a good handyman. What a dump. Can you help?
Sure. Some primer, a couple of wing nuts. How's that?
That'll work. Hey, can you miter cut those floorboards? Will do. Good news. The external beer tap is functional. Yeah!
When you've got the great taste of an ice cold Miller Lite, life is good.
I could have done this. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that. Let's come back to the regular screen here.
Wow. There you go. That's
a little bit bigger of a budget on that one, on the second one there.
Boy, what a difference. In that first commercial, I was the talent. Right. I never met anybody from Michelob or anything. I think the only person I talked to was the director. And then after Home Improvement, all of a sudden I'm talking to these people and I don't really know who I'm talking to. Right. All of a sudden it's the clients and the ad agency, and they're asking me if the script is okay, this like that. And it was a whole different experience. Sure.
So how did you get cast for the role of Al Borland?
Oh gosh, do we have enough time?
We have all the time you have. Yes.
Yeah. Well, the great thing about this role was I was able to walk it back years. I walked it back to doing summer theater in Holland, Michigan, where I did a play called Strider with the director David. Oh gosh. Okay, we'll just leave it at David.
It's called Strider.
It was called Strider, and we kind of butted heads because he had directed it at the school he was teaching, Evansville, and I think he kind of wanted me to do the same thing, and I was like, no, I see it going this way and this and that, and we butted heads until the show opened, and then what I was doing and what he also helped doing was working, maybe even better than before, so we became friends, and then 5 or 6 years later, he calls me up to do this kind of playwrights convention in New Harmony, Indiana, which was put together by the 3 guys who created Roseanne: Matt Williams, David Mfadzian, Carmen Finestra. And I met those guys there, and we became friends. And then a couple of years later, I end up in LA, and I hear that they're doing a new show. And I call them up, and they go, well, because we know you, we realize that you're not really right for anything in the show. You're too much like Tim. You and Tim are too similar in our heads, and we needed somebody a little older, a little taller to play that role. But come on in anyways, meet Deborah Barilski, and maybe there'll be a guest star down the line or whatever. And so I go in. I worked on the audition really hard. And it was an audition where the character's name was Glenn, and his assistant Glenn was working on a lathe. And so I added the lathe sound. I'm doing, now when you're working on a lathe, what you want, and they're laughing, and I'm going, oh, this is going great. And then the director, John Pasquin, who I had been a reader for 10 years earlier in New York, when he was directing, or he was casting the Basketball Diaries at Center Stage. So I knew him. I knew everybody in the room except the casting director. He goes, hey, can you make the lathe sound like a question? And I go, yeah, okay, sure. So I'm going, so when you're working with the lathe, that, and they just, they fell out, and I had no idea what that meant until years, a little later, I hear Tim grunting, and then he had the grunt question, and I went, oh, that's why they were laughing.
Okay, yeah. So did that come from that?
No,
The grunts come. No, okay,
no. Tim had that grunt in his stand.
Okay.
I mean, years,
right.
for years. They were just, playing with me because
Gotcha.
I wasn't really auditioning for the role. I was coming in kind of as a favor to the producers. But
Sure.
then they called me and said, Stephen Topolowski got a movie.
Mhm.
And I can't really say if I know which one specifically. I think it was The Invisible Man with Chevy Chase, but I'm not
Okay.
sure. And he can't do the pilot, and we would love you to just come in to do the pilot. So that's what I did. I came in just to do the pilot. And
Wow.
that whole week we're working on the show, and the original mother was replaced. Frances Fisher was going to be Tim's wife. That's why all the kids are blonde.
Okay.
And after 3 days of rehearsal, we had an audience, come in, and we did it for them, and it went great, in my mind as a young actor. And then the next day she's gone, and I go, what? I went to Carmen. I go, Carmen, because that freaked me out. The fact that we're so easily disposable was kind of a new concept to me.
Sure.
I go, what? I thought it went really well. The laugh wasn't quite right. It wasn't the kind of laugh that she. It felt to us like she was a victim to Tim. The audience was laughing like, "Oh God, poor guy." She's that he's a victim. And so when they brought Pat in, and we did it in front of an audience a few days later, it was like a whole different scene. It was
Right.
a whole different thing. And that's when I realized, just how important that kind of stuff is. And, the stuff with Tim and I was fine, but they wrote down the role a little bit, took maybe some of the stuff he would have done out because I wasn't going to be there for very much longer. And oddly enough, he got another movie, said I can't do the first couple of episodes. So they brought me in to do the first couple of episodes, and then boom.
Wow. The rest is history.
I nailed the audition. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy thinking back on it now, watching the show. I haven't seen it in a while because I haven't seen it in syndication in a little bit. But I could not picture anybody else as the roles. What I mean?
Weird,
It's just,
isn't it? Yeah.
it is very strange to think
It
of
would have
that.
been a whole different
Yeah.
feeling, a whole different vibe. But who's to say it wouldn't be just as interesting, just as good, just in a different way?
Sure.
You don't know.
Did you have any idea what the show was going to be after like filming a few episodes? Did you think it was going to be as big?
I knew that it was really good, but I don't think I understood the concept of what that meant.
Right.
I watched shows. I watched MASH, for 11 years, and that seemed so out of my purview of what I was thinking I was going to be doing. I was really in a theater head space where I was going to do theater, Broadway, or whatever, and you don't do the same play for 8 years, maybe unless you're in Cats, but
Sure.
You move on and you do different things, and so I knew the show was good. I knew the show was funny, and after the pilot premiered, I knew the ad agencies just loved, the makeup. We premiered at number 9, and we never fell out of the top 10.
Right.
And so when people started coming up to me, that's kind of when it hit me. It's like, wow, this really reaches a lot of people, and not just here, but also in Europe. We took a trip to England, and people were coming up, and I'm going, wow, this is. And at first, you don't feel worthy necessarily because I was just doing my job. I was just
right.
being that character, that actor, which doesn't. I'm not solving world problems.
Right.
But that was a lot of stuff to handle, and at first I go no, but I looked like that guy, and then after a while I realized it's not about me, it's about them, seeing somebody that has been in their living room for a while.
Sure.
And I just kind of relaxed and went, yeah, let's take a picture, come on.
Yeah.
You come to a point where you have to make a decision whether it's going to bother you and you'll be upset all the time, or you just accept it and move on.
Sure, absolutely. Now, your character had such great comedic timing. When you studied acting, was comedy an area of focus, or was it like a natural characteristic?
Comedy was pretty much, most of the shows that I did. I didn't do a lot of drama. Until later, till after. Home Improvement. But the timing with Tim was, I knew what I liked from somebody setting me up, in theater, and so I just gave him the space, and I gave him, the timing and everything that just kind of came out of supporting him. I was there to do a job, and my friends who allowed me to be in the pilot in the first couple of episodes, I wasn't trying to do more than what was written there or trying to, steal the scene or whatever. But there came a point in about the third or fourth episode where Tim turns to me and goes, "Hey, Al, you think they call it molding because it's been in the refrigerator too long?" And the audience laughs, and I just let them have that laugh. I wasn't going to step on the laugh, and I just looked at him.
Right.
I just looked at him, and I was about to say my next line, and then there was another laugh of me just looking at Tim.
Yep.
And now keep in mind, this was before the show had aired, so the audience in that room wasn't aware of these characters or their relationship. They were laughing at, kind of an iconic situation between these two kind of characters, where the one guy just is, frustrated with his boss. And I just looked at him, and then I went, "I don't think so, Tim."
Right.
And that got another laugh. And I think that was the point when the writers go, "You know what? Steven is great. We would have loved to have him, but this is working. And now we know how to write it. We know who these characters are.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I'm older or I'm taller or I'm too much like Tim. On tape, we went in opposite directions. He went a little taller, I went a little wider."
Yeah. And it was such a natural chemistry that was so great about it. How much of yourself would you say is Al Borland? Like, would you say there's parts of your personality that influence the development of the character?
There probably is. And there's some of my dad. My dad was a builder. So I knew who those guys were. I knew that quiet competence of somebody that loves what they're doing, knows what they're doing, and has to deal with people that are showboating, which was Tim. So there was a little of me, a little of my comic timing. I wish I hadn't made him so goofy, when he's around women. And that was just me, playing into the comedy of, and not realizing how when you do something, it stays. If you do something and you get a good laugh, that's it. For the next 8 years, that's where you are.
Sure. Yeah, it worked. It worked. And it still holds up.
The pilot episode, we rehearsed, like I said, for 10 days or whatever, without an audience,
right?
Not necessarily. And the first time with the studio audience and the lights and the cameras and everything, when I walk out for the first time and Tim introduces me, "This is my assistant, Al," I walk out there and I felt like, well, this is, I should do something, and so I just kind of like went like that, it's like, acknowledging that I've been introduced. And like the next week, it's in the script. I go, well, Al walks out and does his salute. And I had to ask the director, I go, "Well, what's my salute?" She says, "Well, you did the salute in the pilot." I go, "What?" She says, "Well, you did this." And I go, "Oh, that's my salute." "Oh, yeah. Okay. All right." Okay. And that became
full-time salute.
That became a thing. Yeah. I know they wrote it into the show, the Tool Time salute.
That's amazing.
Salute. Yeah.
That was what I loved about the show so much. It had such a formula to it. You had your his conversations with the neighbor over the fence, and Tool Time was my favorite segment, especially Heidi. It was considered. It's funny because it was considered a fairly wholesome show. It was family friendly.
Very much so, yeah.
But I don't think a character like Heidi would work today on a show.
Well,
because things have changed so much.
The thing is, remember, our first Tool Time girl was Pam Anderson.
Yes.
And when Pam went on to do Baywatch, they were looking for the next Tool Time girl. And Debbie had been in the first season. She was this character that came up to Tim in a restaurant, asked him for his autograph, Kiki. And, the whole crux of that thing was that Tim wasn't going to look at other women or like that. And she comes in while his wife's in the bathroom and says, I really love the show. Can you give me an autograph? And he's like, "Oh, yeah, quick. What's your name?" "Kiki." "Oh, good. Yeah, Kiki." Von Herstenweiler, the last name is like huge. And Debbie was in that that scene. And when they were looking for the next Tool Time girl, they had a really hard time. They kept, it went on for weeks. And I went to Tim and I go, well, Tim, what's the matter? He said, well, I don't, it's not right. I want somebody who can be a calendar, a Tool Time calendar girl. And so I go to the writers. I go, so what's going on? He says, well, we had Pam and Pam was wonderful, but we want, somebody, a girl next door, a wholesome girl next door. And I said to him, I go, well, that Tim wants a calendar girl. And they go, what? He says, well, he wants somebody that, would be a Tool Time calendar. And they're going, oh, and I said, well, what about Debbie? He said, well, we already brought her in. She says, yeah, but now, you guys maybe you're on the same page. So I feel like I was a little instrumental in, getting that next step
right
solidified.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of like Last Man Standing, which you made some guest appearances on.
I only got two. I got two. I needed the third. I needed my Phoenix moment, because the last time you see me, I'm drunk. I've lost my, I'm in jail or whatever. And I needed that third episode where I, rise from the ashes.
Yeah. Now I don't get far into politics here at all. I stay far away as possible. I like to have fun.
Oh yeah. Kind of hard to do these days.
It is. The show wrapped up this year, but there was a point where it was canceled. And based on Tim's political views represented on the show,
I don't think that was the point. I don't think that's why it was canceled.
Okay.
No, I think that the cost of the show was getting too much, and it wasn't papering out. It always comes down to bottom line.
Right.
Bottom line, and when all of a sudden Disney buys Fox, then they found a way to reformat it for a little less.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that, actually, because when I heard that, I was like, I'm a fan of the show, and he's very fair. There's characters on the show that represent the other side of his views.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need. I think that's what we need in American culture and television.
It wasn't about that.
Right.
Right. To be frank, the TV audience needs those opposing point of views to work out some really, stupid arguments, things that shouldn't even be an argument anymore.
Right.
They've weaponized politics.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you and Tim have worked together for many years. I assume you guys are great friends. And you have a show together, a reality competition show called Assembly Required. It's on the History Channel.
Uh-huh.
I've been watching it. I just.
What do you think?
I love it. I really do love it. I'm not like a really big handy guy, but those are the kind of tools that I need. That leaf blower, that
flamethrower,
exactly,
snow blower kind of thing.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The leaf blower ice melter is my dream tool. And the show's great. I really love it. I'm halfway through the first season.
Okay.
Now you're filming the second season now, right?
We are about to. Actually, we're going to start in a couple of weeks.
Nice. And
the format has been changed.
Okay.
It's now no longer competition. It's
wow.
It'll be Tim and I in April. They're going to bring in April in a much larger capacity, and we will do a deep dive into an individual tool section. Because maybe the first episode will be about blades, and blades can be anywhere from medical precision blades to windmills and chainsaws and axes. We'll take blades all the way across the line, and then bring somebody in that has a project, and we'll talk about the project and like that, but it won't be a competition.
Okay, that sounds really interesting, though. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think it's going to be really. But I loved the competition time. But I will say that halfway through, it occurred to me that asking somebody to do something in 90 minutes, where they have to speed up their process, can be dangerous. They can hurt themselves. Hence some fire that happened, and some cuts and bruises and things like that. But now we're gonna take it to a different level. And now, because COVID has changed a little bit of the we're going to be able to bring people into the studio, as opposed to last year when we went, everybody stayed in their own sandbox and built their own stuff in their own space.
Right. Well, that's really cool. So that makes me think of like the cooking shows where, they have 90 minutes to make a cake, and they always cut their fingers and all this stuff. And now you're dealing with serious power tools. I mean, a knife is a knife, but a leaf blower ice melter is a little more dangerous.
I mean, we had a NASA scientist, rocket scientist, who couldn't finish in 90 minutes because everything had to be too perfect.
Wow.
And for a NASA rocket scientist, everything has to be perfect.
Sure.
But in this venue, he just couldn't cut the corners to finish in 90 minutes.
Wow, that's unreal. Now you wrote some books. If I'm not mistaken, 2 books, Housebroken and Handy at Home. I know they have longer titles.
Well, Housebroken, the second part of that title is key. How I remodeled my home for just under 3 times the original bid.
Okay. So
that's key.
That's a money saver.
No, it's not a money saver. I spent extra money because I wanted to get certain things.
Oh, 3 times the bid. Okay.
3 times the original bid. Yeah.
I gotcha. So now would a book like that be good for someone like me, a newbie who doesn't, I just started owning a home a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All
I mean, we go into a lot. I mean, we even go into stuff like remodeling stress syndrome.
Really?
Which happens with people that that have been together for a long time, and they realize that their view of their nest that they're feathering, their art, is a little different. Why would you want that wall yellow? Yellow just So all of these big submerged emotions kind of come out when you're remodeling your house, and it could be as small as choosing a tile.
Yeah.
And we address that, which I think people should be aware of.
That is very true. That is very true. Yeah. Yeah. I have a different method. I just say, sure, go for it.
Yeah. But
yeah, because
it could boil up, and every time you walk past whatever it is you said sure to, you look down, you go, God, I wish we had done that different molding. Molding isn't right.
Definitely. And those books are available Amazon. Are they available digitally as well?
I think so. I don't know. That was a long time ago. The other one was just kind of actually, here's my book.
Ah, there it is.
It just happens to be right behind me.
That was late 90s.
It was because we remodeled our home.
Okay.
We bought a home and we did everything. And really, the funny thing is that we got this bid on the house, and then we just snowballed. And I think it was the fact that I wanted to redo the windows.
Okay.
There were a lot of different, hey.
Stay.
There were like 4 or 5 different types of windows throughout the house. There were metal windows, wood windows, plastic, and I wanted to kind of make this house look all one design, one style. And when my dad came down from Seattle, he looked at me and he goes, "So you're going to do all the windows?" Yeah, and there's a lot of windows in this house. Right. He goes, "Well, do they leak?" And I go, "No, they don't leak, but so why are you doing the windows?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it." Yeah.
If it ain't broke, and that's my dad. He's very pragmatic. It's like, well, and I'm like, well, I want to, but once you take out the windows, all of a sudden the molding, or not the molding, but the stucco on the outside, you pretty much have to redo the stucco, because the guy comes up to me and goes, it's going to look like patchwork if we don't redo the stucco. So the windows come out, all of a sudden the stucco comes off. Now we're looking at, instead of putting fake tile on the roof, we could put real tile on the roof, because now because the stucco's gone, we can shore up the roof, make it stronger. There's some ceilings, that we can make 2 or 3 feet higher than they were. And we did everything. And I walked through this house and I loved what we did. But I was in a fortunate situation where I had, home improvement, and I had money that I could do that with.
Sure. Sure.
You know,
Now,
and not everybody has to. A lot of people have to adhere to their budget.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a big thing. That's a very important thing to understand.
right. And it's a domino effect. You know, I've been in this house for 4 years, and you do one thing and you change 15 things. You know, it's so true. It really is.
It is.
Have you and Tim ever worked together on a house, like off camera, like just buds helping each other out? No. Okay.
But Tim
fan dream.
Tim was also remodeling his house at the same time from the '94 quake, which, you know, he had floor to ceiling windows that all shattered and stuff like that. And he remodeled, and he would come into rehearsal or whatever, and he has these stories, and they're just mundane stuff. But he goes, you know, the outdoor lights are shorting out. I go, what do you mean the outdoor lights are shorting out? Yeah, well, they're shorting out and they're not working, and they're very expensive.
Right.
You know, they're European outdoor lights. And I go, well, what's the matter? I go, well, you know, I say to the guys, he said, well, these are shorting out. He said, yeah, they're getting wet. And I go, yeah, they're getting wet. Well, they're outdoor lights. Yeah, well, we didn't think they'd get wet. So, well, you put them next to sprinklers. Yeah, well, we didn't think they'd get, you know, and he would just take, you know, just mundane stuff and make it funny. I mean, he would just run it out.
Right.
To, you know, this stuff. And it made me come back and look at my remodeling process and see the humor of, you know, somebody as simple as tile. You know, the guy's doing the tile in my kitchen, and I've got this beautiful tile I found with grapes. You know, just
Sure.
It was just going to be one tile going around, not all the tile, but he had the grapes going up instead of falling down off the vine. And I go, well, the grapes are falling up. I think they should be falling down. And he's already done like, you know, 3 or 4 feet of the tile. And I go, I really want them falling down. I said, well, look, they're going to go in a square pretty soon, and they'll be, you know, upside down. I go, yeah, okay, I don't mind that. But I want most of them to be, you know, and that's, you know, all stuff that just, you know, if you're not around and you come in and you go, oh, that happened.
Yeah.
So.
Very true. Very true. I've been through it a lot over the past couple of years being a new homeowner. I know exactly what you're talking about.
There you go.
So now, besides Assembly Required, which if people haven't seen it, it's on the History Channel. I'm sure on demand, or you can rent it or buy it from Amazon, one of those services.
I think it's on Hulu also.
It's on Hulu. Okay.
And also it was on an airplane. You know,
nice.
I was flying somewhere, and it was a choice on my airline. You know, I go, wow.
Yeah. Because I had to find it. I rented it because we have TV, but you know, it's streaming. It's not like cable, so we don't have history.
Yeah. TV has really kind of fractured all over the place. There's
Yes.
a lot of different ways you can find stuff, but you can't find everything.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You're also on the Emmy nominated series Pen 15.
Right.
I actually
Which is also on Hulu.
It's on Hulu. I haven't seen this one yet. My wife's seen it. She likes it a lot. You have 5 credited episodes. Are you still filming? Are you going to be in more episodes?
We were right in the middle. Dead in the middle of filming the 3rd and 4th season, or 2nd and 3rd season. And we did a scene, and we cut for lunch, and we were going to come back and do the rest of the scene because it's film and you do different angles or whatever, you know, as opposed to a sitcom Home Improvement where we had 7 cameras and we did everything at once.
Sure.
We cut for lunch, and then during lunch they came to us and said, we're going to shut down. And I go, Paramount, our network is shutting down, so we're going to shut down. And so we went away for 1.5 years or whatever, and then just this last fall came back and did the 2nd, 3rd episodes, or 2nd, 3rd seasons. And,
wow.
It was nominated for an Emmy this year. It's a really smart, funny show. The 2 women who put this together, Anna and Maya, met at NYU. And we got together, pitched this show, put it together, and they are playing themselves as 7th graders. You know, they're both in their 30s, but they're playing 7th graders. Not ironically, they're doing it, you know, trying to make it look real. And they do look, I mean, you can tell they're a little older, but all the kids around them are that age, and they do a funny show, and it's about 7th grade. And some parents will be fine watching it with their 7th grader, but you know, you might want to watch it first and see if you're comfortable, because
Sure.
they
Sure.
go into a lot of stuff. Hence the title Pen 15, which,
Yes.
if you're in 7th grade, that spells penis.
Yes. On a calculator, right? We used to write boobs. It was 80085.
Exactly.
That's the things I remember from school. So you also hosted Family Feud for 4 years.
4 years.
One of my favorite game shows. All the hosts are great. Steve Harvey's great. But honestly, and I'm not just saying this because you're here, you're my favorite Family Feud host.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really enjoyed it. And I said no at the beginning. When they came to me about hosting a game show, I went, I don't think because I didn't think that's where my career trajectory should go. And then my agents finally, convinced me. They go, you've done TV, family-friendly TV, family-friendly movies. This is just family-friendly. It's another thing, and you'd be good at it. And I went, okay, all right, I'm in. I'm all in.
Right.
And I did 4 seasons, which bummed me out because I had 5-season contract. And at the end of the 4th season, they asked if I would not take my bonus into the 5th year. And I went, well, didn't we bring the ratings up? Didn't we do everything that you guys want in a show? And they went, yeah. And I went, well, let's revisit this next year.
Right.
And then they brought in John O'Hurley.
Okay.
And that's when I realized they did that to the guy that I replaced, Louis Anderson.
Louis, yeah.
And then me, and then they did that to John O'Hurley after 4 years. And then so when I saw Steve at an event, I went, hey, this is what they do, kind of, so you should just, here's a heads up. And he goes, yeah, I'm fine. I don't know. I've got lots of sticks in the fire, this and that. And then I see him like a year later, and he goes, I apologize. Thank you for that heads up, because a lot of people don't talk about that stuff. They're just, everybody's in it for their own contract or their own world. But he's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, and
I don't know how many years, but he beat the 4-year rap.
Right. And I'm glad you brought something like that up, because it's true. It's if they can get away with something once, they're going to try it again and again and again, and it becomes a thing.
Well, in my mind, I thought you had the same. You had Alex Trebek for a million years. You had all of the game show hosts lasted a long time. I thought that there was something to that, but Fremantle just felt they're replaceable. Doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, it's messed up. Do you have any memorable questions and answers, like crazy ones? Because Family Feud's known for that. Do you have any memorable ones that really stick out to you?
Oh my God. Well, because it happens in real time. I couldn't stop to remember funny stuff while we were doing it. I knew at the end of the show, something funny happened. Can you go back and remind me what that was? Because I didn't stop that often. I mean, there was some really funny stuff, like, in what month does a woman start showing pregnancy? And the woman goes, October.
Right, like the number. It's supposed to be the number, right?
As opposed to the 4th month or the 5th month or whatever.
Yeah.
And famous Rudolphs. Obviously, there's Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer. There's Rudolph Nureyev, and this guy goes, Hitler.
Rudolph Hitler.
Rudolph Hitler. So
like in the moment, those things.
In the moment.
Yeah.
But there was a really funny thing. Like a few years after I did Family Feud, I got cast in a play called Game Show, and there was a real game show where we brought audience up, and then there was a play that happened during commercials. Who's sleeping with who wants whose job, that kind of so there was a play, but there was an actual game show, trivia game show, where we brought audience up and they could win prizes like that. And I played it really, pretty much like a real game show. I thought that's how I should do it for the first few weeks of the show. And then one day one of the questions came up, and the question was, on the Greek Isle of Lesbos, what are the people called? And the joke is, lesbians, which,
Right.
it's kind of a play on words, funny. And while people are writing their answers down, I would always walk down to the audience and just, kind of talk about whatever. And so I walked down, I go, yeah, Greek Isles, how many Greek Isles are there? I don't think I knew about Lesbos, blah, 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 blah. Then the next question comes up and goes, you're running around hitting a shuttlecock. What game are you playing? And, in my head, I'm going, okay, you're playing badminton, but there's a joke.
Yeah.
There's a joke.
Right,
there.
right.
God, there's a, it's just, and this is all happening like in nanoseconds in my brain, and I go, there's a joke. I don't want to be so gross and obvious, but, what is it? And I said, okay, I can't. So I just walked down to the audience. And as I'm walking down to the audience, I just kind of said, God, you're running around the Greek Isle of Lesbos. Not a shuttlecock to be found. And I could not talk for like 10 seconds. I was laughing. The audience was laughing.
Brilliant.
This joke happened out of the blue. And and then after that night, I go, oh my God, I can set up jokes for reoccurring or callbacks and like that. And I did that for a while,
Wow.
and then it was like too easy. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. I really wanted to go back and find it in the moment or not find it in the moment. Was much more, appealing to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So then was that the last time you've done theater?
No, I did quite a few. I took 20 years off when Home Improvement happened. We were pregnant. Tootie and I were pregnant with our son Cooper, and he was born in the first season. And for the next 20 years, I didn't really want to do theater because I was gone every night. You'd be gone every night, 8 shows a week. So because of Home Improvement, I didn't have to do those kind of jobs. I could take, shorter jobs and make more money. But my son's in college, and I get a call after in my head. I kind of said, I could do theater again. It's been 20 years, but I could do theater again. And then I get this phone call about going to Kansas City to do Spelling Bee, which was a musical on Broadway, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Yes.
And I said, okay, when is it? He says, well, it's in March. I go, and this is October. And I go, March. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in March. He goes, well, no, not this coming March, like a year from this coming March. And I go, really? And I go, oh, okay, all right. So I had a year and a half to worry about doing theater again. Can I do it? Can I remember lines past, because in TV you get used to, if you screw up, you just do it again.
Right.
And so after 20 years, I went back on stage, and it was glorious. It was so much fun. After the first few days of rehearsal, I called my wife and I go, you know what? I remember how this is. I'm going to be fine. I was a nervous wreck before that, but I was fine. And so I did that, which then another theater saw that, and they called me to do actually game show up in Calgary.
Yeah.
And then I got a call to do a show in Florida, and then back to Kansas City. So I've done, 7 or 8 plays in the last few years.
Wow. What medium do you prefer more? Being on stage or being behind the camera?
I know they're two different animals. They really are. Theater is exciting because it's in the moment, and you have to do it. You can't just bail.
Right.
And if you forget your lines, you got to deal with that in real time. Which is
it seems a lot more stressful.
But film and TV are they pay so much more,
right?
And there is the benefit of doing some really wonderful work, captured on film or TV for years to come.
Sure.
It did occur to me, because I would do these shows and they were like 3-month runs, and in the 5th, 6th week, I was finding stuff that never happened in the rehearsal or the first or second week of the show. I was finding new things that were really deep and meaningful, and I thought, brought the level of the play up. And I'm going back to thinking, we did Home Improvement in 5 days, and the stuff I could have found in 3 or 4 weeks, which you don't get that chance. You don't get you have to go with your first or second instinct. And if it's not right, the writers will rewrite. They'll rewrite it so that it works right away. So there is that.
Right.
And there are people that sometimes their first instincts are the best. They're not going to find anything, or they never actually realize that there are other things because they didn't do theater for 3 months.
Right. Absolutely. So will we see a Home Improvement reboot or reunion? If you can talk about that.
I don't think we will.
I would love to see that.
The producers in Disney are still kind of in a quagmire of a disagreement that happened, so many years ago. It's like 30 years ago that this happened. But when the show started, Wind Dancer, who is Matt, David, and Carmen, and Buena Vista Television, which was the Disney TV arm, put the show together, and they sold it to ABC. And then after a year, Disney bought ABC. So now they want to sell the show to themselves for less. And Wind Dancer's going, no, we can make more money. You're not going to, sell this show for less because we still own half of it.
Sure.
And so they never came eye to eye on that.
All the red tape.
That's why it's not even on Disney Plus. Which still surprises me because they're really missing out on having a great show on Disney Plus.
Do you have any idea where it is? Is it on any?
Laugh TV is the last I heard.
Laugh TV. Okay, I don't think I have that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Richard, I really want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You did not have to do this, and this was great. This made my day, made my month. Once again, really, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And everyone, check out Assembly Required on History, and hopefully,
it might change names.
It might change names.
And I don't know what it is, but it's still Tim and me.
Okay, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's all we need to know. All right, Richard, thank you so much.
All right. You take care.
You take care. Thank you.
Hell Fucking Yeah! It's the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.